everyone, Leslie Chadwell here with the first of our series of figure eight pattern, baby steps to figure eight. I thought before I filmed what I'm going to do today and then have some volunteers come in with their horses and we're going to do a teaching process of it, what I want to do is kind of go over some of the tools and show you, give you an idea of what it should look like, or what it could look like. So what we're going to talk about today is, I have this to kind of keep me on track because there's so much to figure eight that it's, to start off, you certainly don't want to be going and saying, okay, I'm going to take my horse and I'm going to go do figure eight. Sometimes that might work for you, and that's wonderful, but there are certain things that you want to be able to accomplish first or be able to do first with your horse, and one is to you need to be able to back your horse out of your space. You need to be able to talk to the horse's front end, because as you see me when I do this later with Sarah, I'm going to be moving her front end away from me and sending it in a certain direction to begin to go around the barrels that I have set up here for my figure eight. And you also want to some extent, be able to talk to the horse's hind end. So you'll see all that happen when I demonstrate with Sarah. But as far as tools, other than the first thing you need is your horse, obviously, you can use whatever tools you have, your halter, whatever lead line. My only suggestion for lead line would be that it's long enough for you to be able to have the horse drift away from you, so that you're not actually leading the horse on the figure eight pattern themselves. Maybe you might have to in the beginning. There are some horses that do need a little hand holding, and that's fine. But as you advance and the horse understands what you're trying to say, from a distance, you need a bit of a longer line. So when I bring Sarah out, I'm going to have her on about a 12-foot line. And I do use a rope halter, but I also have nylon halter. Whatever works for you. I started off with a rope halter when I started on this little journey, and that's what I use. I also do use a nylon halter. It's kind of whatever my mood is for the day, whatever we're working on. My suggestion for halter would be just a little tip that I found, is that if you have a horse that tends to be a little bit pushy and to run through things a little bit, that if you do put on a rope halter and have a little bit of a lead rope with a little bit of life to it, you can stop what I kind of think is a little bit of rude behavior of running through pressure, and just speak to them. Say, no, we're going to stop. You're not going to go zipping around. It works off the pressure points. You get the point across, and then you can go back to being very, very soft. It's not about continuing this, this conversation of no, no, no. It's about saying, this is not correct. This is correct, and then going back to being very soft again. So I'm going to show you without Sarah first. Let me pick these up. These are other tools. You can, if you have, depending on where you are in your journey, if I use any type of extension of my arm, this is like a wand, to ask the horse to kind of move away and move around and use themselves. Figure eight is a wonderful way for horses to really develop their bodies and move their rib cage and use their hind end and move their front end away from you. It's really wonderful. And sometimes you do need a little bit of an extension of yourself. If you do not have any one of these, this is another one with a little bit of longer reach. If you have a long enough line and you don't have one of those, whatever works for you, you can use the end of your line, and I'll kind of demonstrate before we get Sarah out here, but you can use the end of your line to kind of ask for a little bit of encouragement forward and away from you, okay? So your tools, it doesn't matter who makes them, what color they are. It's what is important to understand is that tools are a way to communicate. They're the translator between people of two different languages. So they're to be used with respect. And any tool, doesn't matter whose it is, in the wrong hands, uneducated hands, is bad. So please use your tools appropriately when you're dealing with your horses. All right, so let me show you basically how we're going to be running this pattern. Let's say we'll start here, and I will have, this is my horse. I have to think which way I'm going here. So my horse is at the end of my line here. I'm going to back this horse up, and I'm going to send this horse around this barrel, okay? She's going to come around here, and she's going to come back through, and I'm going to back myself up, okay? She's going to come through. What I'm going to need to do is, here's my horse. What I'm going to need to do is, as she switches directions, she's coming around this way, as she switches directions, I'm going to need to switch hands as she goes through here and send her off this way, okay? So my horse is coming around this barrel here, coming around this way. I'm going to back up, invite her in through, switch hands again, and send my horse back through that way. Okay, that's a little bit of a rude explanation. It will be a lot easier when there's a horse at the end of the line. But just to show you the switching of the hands, if you're using a wand or a stick, there's going to be the changing of that. I don't know that I will get involved in that. I think that might be a little farther down the road. But let's go over and get Sarah, and let's see if we can bring this together a little bit more here. Yeah. So like I said, this is about a 12-foot line. I like it. It's what I when I first started doing this, it's what I got used to using, and it works for me. Certainly, if you can get this accomplished with, something a little bit shorter, certainly not, the 3 or 5 foot line, because you really do want to be able to get your horse to move away from you and earn that independence and confidence from a distance, okay? So, first thing, I'm going to speak to her hind end and ask it to move that way. That's one of the things we need to have as a prerequisite before we start. And Sarah's not just fat, she's pregnant. She's a very willing participant, I think. So we're going to ask her to back up very gently. So we've been doing this for a while, and she knows, she already knows where we're going. So I'm going to let her stand there for a minute. Don't want her to assume that we're going to do this, even though she's correct. Girl, now, stay up, girl. So now, I'm going to send her around this barrel, and I'm going to do a little bit more walking in the beginning. There's my switching of hands, and send her back through the other way. And I'm going to pretend she doesn't know how to do this at all. Okay? So I'm going to do a lot of walking and a lot of guiding, a lot of hand holding, which is okay in the beginning. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? We'll go through one more time. And around. Good. One more time. Oh, there's so early. Good. All right. Okay. So, the distance between these two barrels is about 15 feet. You can use barrels. I suggest laying them down because when you're using a line and you're starting off, sometimes they can get they can get caught over the top, and it just kind of screws everything up. It just makes one more thing to have to think about. So I lay my barrels down. You can use smaller barrels, you can use blocks, you can use cones. It doesn't make any difference. I would suggest in the beginning, when you start to have something of kind of a substantial either size or visibility, so that you yourself and your horse can actually really see that this pattern is going around this, crossing through, and going around the other one. And it is a pattern, and once your horse and you begin to develop this, it will flow so nicely, and in its, when you get to, you're beginning at trot, you're beginning at walk, and when you move forward, get more comfortable to do it at trot, everything kind of happens a little faster, but you would spread out your barrels a little bit more. You can do it at canter, you can do it at liberty. It's just wonderful where it can go. But let me give you another demo with Sarah again, to give you an idea of where we are for starting doing the figure 8 pattern. So I'm going to ask you to back up very gently. So backing up. And then this is the part I didn't mention before, but we're going to talk to the front end and have the front end move away from us, right? And you can watch now switching hands, and I'm having the front end move away again, okay? And we have some great volunteers that have signed up with their horses to go forward and show you a horse beginning to learn this pattern, horse and rider beginning to learn this pattern. And I'm really looking forward to that. So we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.